guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, Karen randomly calls cops because I won't give her son my $1,000 phone. Okay, so this happened last week and I'm still shaken up from it. I don't get how the duck people are actually this dumb. Entitled Witch. Me. A human being. EK. Entitled Kid. NC. Nice cop. I was just hanging out at Starbucks before work. I was playing some random games on my iPhone 13 Pro. I got it a month ago, it's blue and actually super sick. Along comes this dumb kid. EK. What are you playing? Me. Oh, it's a game called Clash Royale, it's really funny. EK. Oh nice, I play that game too. He watches me for some time and we just talk about the game for a bit. He was honestly being super chill until then. Then he does this. EK. Can I play a game? I'm super protective of my phone, it was legit $1,000, so of course I respectfully say. Sorry, but no. I don't trust others with my phone. EK. Please, can I have it? I won't break it. Me. No, I just said that I don't trust others with my phone. EK. Okay fine. After around 30 seconds, EK proceeds to go back to his mom. His mom talks to him for a second, then walks over to me. Can you please give my son your phone? He has been really nice today, and I want to reward him. Me. Getting pretty annoyed by now. No lady, I just don't trust others with my phone. Plus, I have to leave for work in like 10 minutes, so please stop. Give me the phone now. My son deserves it more than you, just give it to him. I make the mistake of putting my phone in my pocket instead of keeping it in my hand. The dumb as duck kid walk behind me and snatches it out of my pocket, then runs to Me, super pissed. Give me my ducking phone right now, or I will calls the cops. I reach over to the kid and pull my phone out of his hand. How dare you touch my son, that's assault. Me. You were trying to steal my phone, I just took it back. Okay, give it to me right now, or I will call the cops for assault. Me. No lady, stop it. I don't know what was going inside M's brain, but she randomly decides to call the cops for absolutely no reason. As I was about to leave, I see a police car pull up, and NC walks in. Officer, this guy is stealing my son's phone. I don't know what happened to her talking about assault. Me. No, this witch is trying to steal my phone. NC. Okay, give me the phone. I give him the phone. He gives the phone to and says, can you unlock this? Tries to unlock it, and spoiler alert she fails. I forgot the code, how does that matter? NC hands me the phone and says to unlock it. Of course I unlock it. I even show him my name in settings. NC. I think I have enough evidence here. He handcuffs as she is yelling super loud. NC asks me if I want to press charges and I say yes. She is gonna be charged with attempted theft and lying to a police officer. I will update you guys soon. Edit. Haters gonna hate, I don't care if you think this is fake. Also, I just wanna add that after I said, no lady, stop it. It took me like 5 minutes to finish my coffee, while she was just sitting there. Then I started to leave and the cops came. Edit 2. It's a misdemeanor to lie to a police officer. Why do 4-year-olds in chat think they're so smart? The next story is titled, New Neighbors Ruin My Life. I live in a block of 10 flats. I moved in on the 27th of April 2017 and for the past year it's been a relatively pleasant place to live. There's been the odd incident but overall, I wouldn't complain. About 2 weeks ago someone moved into one of the flats above me. Before I go on, time for a bit of background on me. I have a benign tumor in my leg that causes me a lot of pain. It's at its worst when it's cold outside and in the winter, I have to use a walking stick. I also suffer from anxiety with depression and probably have a whole host of other psychiatric disorders, but I've never been assessed. I hate having to interact with strangers and am awkward in most social situations. I take quite high amounts of tramadol, sertraline and diclofenac for my various issues and I have to wear lidocaine patches every day. I'm used to them now, but I do get a bit forgetful and lethargic sometimes. So, on Monday night this week the new neighbor showed up at my door and asked for a cigarette. He had been to other doors before mine, because I could hear him knocking. I first said I didn't have any because I've been trying to quit, and I only had 8 left which were supposed to last me until next week. He kept pressing me, asking if I was sure or if I had any tobacco. I eventually relented and said I might have some upstairs and went to get him one in the hopes I'd be left alone if he got what he wanted. No more than 10 minutes later he showed up at my door again and asked if he could come in for a bit. I struggled to say no to people, as I always think I'm going to offend, upset or annoy someone if I do. I said okay and showed him into the living room. He had barely sat down when he asked if he could roll a joint. Again, I didn't want to say no so said it was fine. He then decided to go up and get his girlfriend and bring her into my flat. We sat talking for an hour or two. I thought they seemed alright. They rolled 2 joints in that time and gave me 1/3 of both. I am taking more than enough drugs as it is, so I had a couple of drags so as not to be rude and offered it back to them, but they said to keep it, so I left it in the ashtray and just did the same with the second one, throwing them away after they had left. While they were here, they used more of my cigarettes and took my cigarette papers to roll their joints. The guy used my bathroom and left it in a state, and they let themselves out onto my veranda. The girlfriend also insulted me more than once, saying she thought I was lying about being disabled and gave me a hard time because my house was a mess. I struggled to cope with the housework by myself. I have a few pets, a cat and 4 gerbils. They decided to try to take the gerbils out of the cage without asking. I would have said no because I just got them recently and they are still getting used to being handled. My cat, who I happen to think is the most adorable cat ever to have been born, is a little timid to begin with around new people but generally takes to them after he's had a chance to watch and sniff them. With these 2, however, he peed on the carpet for the first time since I brought him home and spent almost all of the time they were here hiding under the table. It seems he's a great judge of character. When they finally decided to leave, I was relieved. While they had initially seemed okay, I very quickly started to dislike them. As they left the guy tried to take my tramadol. I told him I needed them, and he said okay then can I have half. I settled on giving him 6 to get him out of the house, as that left me with the bare minimum I'd need until my refill. He then told me I had to give his girlfriend a tenner for sharing her hash and walked off with the rest of my cigarettes. Now, it's been a while since I last bought hash, but I'd say a conservative estimate of the cost of what you'd find in the equivalent of 2/3 of a joint would be about £1 to £2 at the most. To take my medication, cigarettes, papers and hospitality and then try to extort money out of me was just completely unacceptable to me. I decided then that I would have nothing more to do with them, but I said I'd give him the tenner when I get paid, which is next Wednesday, and that I had absolutely no money at all until then. I didn't want to start an argument with people I have to live next to, which is why I was as accommodating and said I'd pay then, but then things got worse. The guy showed up at my door twice on Tuesday, 3 times on Wednesday and twice on Thursday looking for this money. I repeatedly told him I'd have nothing until next week. The final time he came on Thursday he woke me up and was with the girlfriend who tried to start a fight when I told them yet again that I had nothing. By this point I was tired, depressed and sick of them trying to extort money out of me. So, I told them I was not giving them any money and to leave me alone, then shut the door in their face. He muttered something like "we'll see about that," which to me came across as a threat. This morning, I called the local authority and tried to make an antisocial behavior complaint with my housing officer. I described exactly what had happened and made it clear I felt unsafe in my own home, but instead of doing anything at all to help she told me it was a police matter and said I was in breach of my tenancy agreement for letting them use controlled drugs in my house. I felt I'd probably get a similar response from the police, but I thought I have to do something, so-called Police Scotland shortly after I got off the phone with the housing officer. The police, in complete contrast to the council, were brilliant. The call handler took the details of the problem and said the local policing team would contact me. Less than an hour later 2 police officers showed up at my door. I invited them in and told them everything. Tramadol is a controlled drug, and I was expecting to get in trouble for giving it out, but the officers were completely understanding and sympathetic. They gave me some advice on what to do if anything else happens and offered to go speak to the neighbors. However, they did warn that it could make things worse, so I said I'd ask them to speak to them if they do anything more than what's going on already. I hoped seeing a police presence in the block might even be enough to scare them off. After the police left, I had to go out to get a prescription. My doctor is in my hometown, as I don't like having to deal with new doctors. I moved surgeries while I was at university, and I felt the new ones just didn't care about me, so I've just stuck with the ones I know since. I live about 20 kilometers away now, though, so it was around 2000 before I was home. Seconds after I locked the door, someone started knocking on it. I shouted 4 times, louder each time, to ask who it was but did not get a response, and the knocking continued, so I called the police again, as they'd advised me earlier to call whenever I felt threatened or intimidated. The second pair of officers to attend were again brilliant. One of the officers was visibly angered by what they were doing to me. He said, prefaced by no offense, that they had targeted me because I am a vulnerable person living alone and they probably thought they'd hit on a goldmine, that they'd be able to get cigarettes, drugs and money from me whenever they wanted. He said he really wanted to go and speak to them but agreed with the officers from earlier that it might make things worse, so said it was up to me as I'm the one who has to live here. I again declined but agreed that it would probably be a good idea to try to move. He advised me to phone housing on Monday and make it clear I couldn't continue to live here in the hopes of being offered something quicker. Later on, I had to call the police again. A group of 8 people were drinking at the security door to my building, playing loud music and shouting at each other. I don't know if the same ones were behind it, as I didn't personally see any of them, but prior to them moving in I never had any issues with any of my neighbors. The police eventually came to disperse them, but before they arrived the people outside had started a fire and continued to get louder. So, that's the situation so far. I am expecting things to quickly escalate and get even worse. I'm struggling to cope with the stress of it. I'm pretty sure no one will read this, but just typing it out has been therapeutic for me and I feel a little better. The last story is titled, Neighbor Tells Gramps He Should Mind His Own Damn Business. That advice costs neighbor most of his yard and a car. Gramps had just moved into a retirement park with a lot that backed up to county land that was a nature preserve. His backyard was basically non-existent, but he didn't mind as he got to look out over the preserve. However, he did marvel at how his next-door neighbor's backyard extended a good 8 feet past his, giving neighbor a nice space back there. Gramps tried to be friendly with all his new neighbors, exchanging phone numbers and the like, and one day he noticed the next-door neighbor was putting down expensive pavers that extended from his back door all the way to the old fence posts that designated the preserve boundary. Gramps watched the neighbor yank the 3 rickety fence posts out of the ground and move them back an extra 2 feet into the preserve before pounding them back in, then started to clear the land, intending to gain himself more area for his pavers. Gramps used to work for the National Park Services as a young lad, so he thought he had better warn his neighbor of the consequences of his actions, so he heads out back for a little chat. Neighbor is immediately defensive, and before Gramps says much, neighbor tells him, "You're new here, I've been here 10 years and to mind your own damn business." Gramps decides not to press the issue. Nothing happens that year, but the following year when most of the park emptied out to head north for the summer, the county comes by to check on the preserve. Gramps notices them going back and forth behind his neighbor's house. The workers are pulling out maps and taking photos and making phone calls, and soon more guys show up. Turns out neighbor has moved the posts several times over the years, and in reality his backyard is supposed to be even smaller than Gramps' backyard. To make it worse, neighbor put pavers in the back specifically to park both his golf cart and a cherry red sports car back there for the summer, so the county will have to move them before they can do anything else. They tape a notice to the front door and leave. Gramps goes over to read it, and it states that neighbor was in violation of encroaching onto protected lands. He has 30 days to move his car, tear up the pavers and pay a fine of $11,000, because of damage to endangered species who inhabit the protected lands, as well as trespassing fees. Failure to do so within 30 days will result in golf cart and car being towed and impounded. Pavers will be dug up and carted off at neighbor's expense, and the fine will increase for every additional day past the deadline. 30 days comes and goes, so a week after that Gramps has quite the show, as first the car and cart were towed, pavers were dug up and hauled off, and the old fence posts and ropes were replaced with metal posts embedded into buried cement bases, connected by steel cables. Whole process took several weeks to finish, but the preserve looked a lot more legit when they were done. A few solar cameras were installed so the county could monitor the wildlife and encroachers remotely. Meanwhile, more notices were taped to the front door of neighbor's house. By November the snowbirds were flooding back into the park, including neighbor. That was Gramps' second show of the summer as neighbor reads all the notices, digging down until he reads the first one, then runs out back and starts screaming and cussing up a storm before running back to his car to dig out his cell phone so he can call the county to find out where his car and golf cart were. Gramps stays indoors to avoid the guy as he is frantically trying to unload his car, turn on his water and electricity, get the AC and the toilets going, and all the while trying to get someone at county to pick up the phone and give him some answers. He finally gets a live person and proceeds to scream at them while on speakerphone about his car and cart, so the call keeps getting kicked to other people because who wants to help a screamer? Basically neighbor is told to come to the county office to get this straightened out. 3 days later neighbor catches Gramps outside and asks if he was here when the county stole his car and destroyed his backyard. Gramps said he was, and neighbor says, well, why didn't you call me when you saw them putting notices on my door? You had my number up north. Gramps said he had thought about doing that, but figured neighbor would prefer him to mind his own damn business, so he decided against it. Thanks for listening.